Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Grow up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Mom.
How are you guys today?
Sleepy, but hanging in there.
We've had a great morning. We went to see the elephant migration today.
Because you're in Houston with me.
I am. Hence the new digs, the new background screen. But it was really lovely to see these. I mean, there were 100 elephants and they had spread them all over the park, but the majority of them were in the commons and everybody was flocking to see them. There were tons of people there and they had little bitty tiny ones that were really cute and they all had their own names and they were all different. We had lots of fun.
It's an art installation and they're made out of wood, just FYI, not actual real live elephants, though they are life
I would say
size.
they were made out of grapevine vine.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they were really cool.
They were pretty cool. But okay, so I have kind of a weird topic to bring up with you guys today. Hi, my name is Callie. I am a millennial and I am tired of getting blamed for everything. So
Thanks, millennial.
yeah. So I wanted to talk about why millennials get blamed for everything, from killing bar soap to department stores to ruining the housing market and the economy that many of us can't even afford to participate in. So in this episode, I wanted to break down the real story behind the world's favorite scapegoat generation. From economic instability to avocado toast, we're unpacking why millennials have actually endured, survived, and maybe even thrived through all of this.
I like my millennials.
Oh yeah, but you're a cool boomer. Remember you're a hip mom?
That's why I'm here. I'm a cool mom.
That's right. That's right.
So
I
was just kind of thinking about this. And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but is it really that millennials are getting blamed, or is millennials just the same as kids these days?
I mean, millennials end in what, 1996? So that would make them 29 today. Are they still kids these days?
To Mom, we're kids.
Yeah.
Well, sure. So, but we'll always be kids to Mom.
Yeah.
Right. But Gen Z will always be kids to us.
So when the heck does Gen Z get blamed for all this shit?
When we're the boomers.
When we're blaming?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some degree of reality to that, but y'all have taken a lot of crap. Y'all have also endured a lot of crap. I mean, when we started thinking about what your lifespan has shown, I always think about my grandmother and what she went from from the day she died and how much technology changed and the world changed. And you just think, but you guys as millennials, y'all have been hit with some pretty significant stuff.
In pretty formative periods of time in our development.
Yeah, the World Trade Center, affected everybody, but the age y'all was, really significant.
So let's jump into that, though. Cole, how old were you when 9/11 happened?
3rd grade. I would have been 8.
So I was in 7th grade and I'm 5 years older than you. So if you were 8, I was 13. I can certainly tell you where I was when that happened. I'm not sure I can tell you any other thing about being 13.
Oh.
But I can tell you exactly what I was wearing. I can tell you who I was with. I can tell you the rooms in the school building, how that whole day progressed. All of it.
I remember when I saw it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was chasing Nathan through the living room and you and Laura were on the couch crying.
Yeah.
I mean, but do you remember before then, do you remember a time where multiple people in our lives were that visibly shaken and or upset?
Oh, definitely not.
I certainly can't.
But it changed a lot of things. It changed the dynamics of the U.S., who we were and what we were fighting for. I think in some ways it brought us together as a nation more so than it has at any other time in y'all's life. So I think you saw that. And now you have all of the divide to juxtapose against that.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely true. I said in a previous episode, I don't feel like, other than 9/11, I don't feel like there has been a time where we were more united, thank you, than we were more united after 9/11.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's so crazy to me. And so let's tick off a couple of things on the list. So we talked about 9/11. What about the 2008, the Great Recession, like the housing bubble bursting in 2008? I was buying a house in 2008, and I was young to be buying a house. I don't know if you remember, but I certainly remember lots of people, by myself as an unmarried female, were like, you're doing this alone? You're doing this without your parents co-signing and all of this? And even my mortgage lender was like, I've never seen anybody do that this young. But I had the first time home buyer. Yeah, exactly. But I had the first time home buyer credit to kind of help lend that money to me, if you will. And so I had just graduated college, was entering the workforce. And
you were doing that without a lot of debt.
Yeah. Oh God, I didn't have any debt. My house was the only debt that I had. I mean, but I am in a lot of ways the exception. I am not the rule, especially amongst my generation when it comes to home ownership. I mean, but this is a once in a lifetime deal, you know. So I live in Houston. I have for the last almost 15 years. And I feel like we have had several instances of, oh, this is a once in a lifetime rainstorm. Oh, this is a once in a lifetime hurricane. Oh, this is a once in a lifetime, once in a century, once in a generation, once in a decade. I can't even count how many once in a whatever experiences I've had. I mean, this isn't supposed to happen. This isn't what's supposed to be going on. This shouldn't have happened again, much less 3 or 4 times. And
then you got a pandemic in there on top of that.
Absolutely. I mean,
those are big. Yeah, it makes sense.
And also we had about the time 2008, 2010 was the big wage stagnation and lack of jobs being available. I mean, so all of my generation is getting out of school and getting out of college and really entering the workforce, and there's nothing.
Well, and you know, one of the articles that I read talked about you're such a large group. You're the biggest group in there. And so all of those things are happening simultaneous. So even if you're just coming into the job market, you're coming into the job market at a time when everybody else in that generation is coming in. If you decide to buy a home, everybody else is deciding to buy a home. But it's just because of the size of that generation, it can definitely affect. I mean, if you guys decide to buy Legos, you can make Legos, you know, a big deal.
I mean, sure, but you also had a bunch of baristas with bachelor degrees because that was the job that was available. There wasn't.
But that's because so many people were coming into the market.
Yeah, for sure it is. And so, I mean, I feel like there is a lot to be said about, for our generation, really competing for America's economic resources.
Yeah.
You have, at that time, fewer homes on the market than ever before. Nobody being able to afford them because nobody had jobs. We're all sitting here as baristas or waiters or things like that, which there's nothing wrong with those jobs. But the longevity of your salary,
$100,000 in debt for school to be something else.
Right. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, the housing crisis and unaffordable real estate, because we don't have all of these big, huge, high-powered jobs, because we have all of this debt from all of our boomer parents saying, you have to go to college and you have to follow this path to success and this will lead you to success. That wasn't true for us the way that it was for your generation.
Definitely.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the pandemic in there where we're all having children and going, what the hell?
We all already have extremely high anxiety because we can't pay our bills. We have a mountain of debt. The job markets are still relatively tight. We have degrees that are already obsolete.
And we've watched this happen around us, plus or minus a few years on either side of where we specifically are, no matter where you are in our generation, that this is the norm. It's been so weird. And then on top of that, we're getting blamed for all of this stupid shit. Like the avocado industry being ruined because we like avocado toast.
Why does that ruin the avocado industry, though?
Yeah.
It made them more expensive. I mean, it's basic economics, right? Supply and demand.
That
The
doesn't
demand
ruin the
was
avocado economy. That enhances the economy because demand is so high. Once demand is high, that now gives suppliers an opportunity, an influx of cash to start to generate more supply. That is basic economics.
right. But those avocados, because there was such a small supply of them for a period of time before they figured out how to meet that demand, that it made the prices of those scarce avocados higher. So all of these boomers who would get one every now and then.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. You want something I also want? I got it first. Wipe my ass.
Well, and then we're using it in new different ways. We're not just making I know.
Guacamole.
Yeah, we're not just making guacamole. We're putting it on sandwiches because it's a healthy fat. I mean, then you go into the whole, we're also killing the wine industry. Cole, did you know that? We're drinking too much wine.
So that's how
Again.
The same
No.
thing.
Yeah.
We're coming in and demanding
if you
all
can't
of this
go
stuff.
to any gas station and find a $12 bottle of wine, you're an idiot.
Find a new gas station.
Yeah.
But the demand was higher. And so then suppliers could charge more because there was more demand.
Maybe you should have had less kids.
What's the deal with the bar soap?
Oh, we're killing bar soap because bar soap is A, for old people, and B, has too many germs. Touching
Okay, that
it
one
and
might be on
rubbing. I mean, you're not wrong, but still, we're getting
I
blamed
use bar
for
soap.
it.
Sorry to say, is that really a thing?
I would have told you that bar soap is in a better position now than it's been in my entire life. We don't use I don't use Irish Spring.
The Irish
But I'm gonna
Spring
use,
lobbyists are pissed off about that.
Well,
You
Irish
use
Spring
bougie
has
bar soap.
Yeah, we use nice. Not bougie was not the term that I was looking for, but is it boutique bar
Yeah,
soap?
Same thing.
organic goat's milk.
Yeah, a higher quality of bar soap instead of just this mass produced
Which
chemical
again
crap.
should not ruin the industry, should elevate the industry.
Exactly, it drives innovation.
So according to research, bar soap sales dropped 2.2% from 2014 to 2015 because millennials specifically are under the impression that bar soap is covered in germs.
That cracks me up.
It's
First
just
off,
too inconvenient to use and covered in germs.
how did we go all of these years and raise y'all to be healthy adults with all of these germy soaps around?
Also, it's soap.
Well, so you mentioned a minute ago it being more, what did you call it? More boutique soap. We're also
I don't think that's
blamed.
the word I was looking for, but
Yeah, higher quality. I know what you're saying, and we're gonna go with that. But we're also being blamed for ruining chain restaurants because we're
unless
going
it's Taco
to
Bell, they're garbage anyways.
we're going to Applebee's and Chili's and things like that, and we're opting for
That's
more.
not millennials' fault.
They are blaming us.
Okay, having a subpar menu, a mediocre menu in a generic environment, it's not innovative.
You're
It's
not wrong.
provocative. It doesn't get the people going. So just because we have better taste and we're weeding out these poor competitors in a free market are icons of capitalism.
Yeah,
We are
Let
the
me
driving
just say,
force.
you both ate a
Applebee's,
lot
if
of
you have-
meals at Chili's.
Oh, for sure.
And I
we did.
haven't gone to the last time I went to Chili's was with you, and I was probably in
Absolutely.
high school.
Yeah.
I went here a while back because we hadn't been in a long time. I don't remember why, but we went to the neighborhood Chili's and it was totally different. Totally
Wait, the
different.
neighborhood Chili's as opposed to what? The rural Chili's.
The one that we used to go to in our neighborhood. It wasn't like I went to a Chili's that I'd never been to that I had no reference. I went to the one that we used to go to, and it was totally different.
So you
All
haven't been in a
restaurants have to
while either.
renovate every 5
No,
years so that they
I
can
bet-
seem fresh.
Yeah,
Or
but it was
you can do it right and be a cool spot, or have a spot that actually has good food, and you can stay the same for eternity and people will keep coming.
Well, kind of yes and kind of no. And I think that speaks to exactly the point of this. Millennials are blamed for chain restaurants dying because our boomer counterparts said, okay, that's good enough. That's fine. And millennials demand more. We want healthier. We want more local, like more boutique options, if you will. We
farm to
want
table.
farm raised, and we're demanding better output rather than baby back Chili's, baby back ribs
Are you
with
are you a
barbecue
healthier
sauce.
generation for that?
In lots of research, yes, absolutely. And we're dealing with our trauma and all of our shit by
Artisan
seeing
was the word I was
therapists.
looking for.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
That's way better than boutique.
Yeah,
Sorry.
artisan. But
I'm sticking with bougie.
we're dealing with all of our brain stuff. And so we're enforcing boundaries with especially our boomer parents and saying, hey, no, that doesn't work for me. Hey, that's uncomfortable. Hey, we're not willing to tolerate this. And we're getting in trouble for that too.
Or did you
Well, that's
stop?
just too damn bad.
Did you stop going
Scapegoat.
to restaurants because you couldn't afford it after your parents stopped paying for it?
Well, if you think about it, we're going to higher end restaurants who are doing more organic, more farm to table, more local. So they have a much smaller supply chain and less buying power.
We're going to boutique restaurants, not massive, mediocre chains that is.
Yeah.
There's no
demanding more.
innovation. Yeah, we're demanding more. We want more than just a hamburger with cheese.
We're more highbrow.
And yet, McDonald's is still there, and
I don't
Whataburger
need
is
that.
still there. Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking anecdotally, but and here's the thing: if you are one of the millennials who is in a scenario where they are struggling economically speaking, and you have a mediocre Chili's hamburger for $19, or you have a mediocre McDonald's burger for $6,
I'm taking
what
a
are you going to
McDonald's
opt
burger all
for?
day.
When
Yeah.
they're both just kind of meh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and McDonald's at the very least is going to be consistently meh across the board, no matter which one you get it from.
Always
Yeah.
going to be the same.
Yeah. So
But don't you talk shit about Taco Bell. Taco Bell is the GOAT.
I would never.
Except for their cheese fries. Those were nasty.
What?
Okay, boomer.
Their nacho fries are the best French fries in the fast food industry. I don't know what they put, like, I don't need the cheese. I don't know what they put on those things. They are fantastic.
Laced with cocaine.
No, they're like chickenese old French fries, but with like seasonings on them.
I saw an interview with Ed Sheeran the other day. I think it was on Call Her Daddy when he was there. And she had asked him, she's like, what's your favorite American fast food? And he was like, oh, hands down, Whataburger, except for French fries. And she's like, oh, McDonald's, right? And he was like, no, I want the KFC French fries. Those go hard.
Their new ones do go pretty hard. I think they went to Chickenese old supplier and took over from them.
Are they still the wedge ones call it KFC?
No,
Yeah,
they're
not
French
anymore.
fries.
Yeah.
They were garbage.
So when you're eating French fries from wherever and you're at home, Cole, what are you using to clean your hands? Beside your mouth.
Wipe it on my pants.
He's using liquid soap.
Are you using a napkin or are you using a paper towel?
My pants.
If you had to choose between a napkin and a paper towel,
Still my pants.
animal.
Is this a
Yeah.
thing?
Millennials are being blamed for ruining the napkin industry because we opt
Because
for paper
napkins suck.
towels.
They just tear apart.
Don't disagree. It's like using tissue paper to clean yourself.
So wait, y'all use cloth napkins more than you use?
No, we use
Paper
paper
towels?
towels
We opt for
more than
Bounty,
we
the
use.
quicker picker upper.
Okay.
Over
I was thinking
bev naps, because bev naps just disintegrate in your hand as soon as there's any moisture within 50 feet of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the equivalent of like single ply toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because
So
we're
you're
too
using paper
bougie.
So
towel.
much more highbrow.
So you're using paper towels, not
Yes.
cloth napkins.
Yes. Well, I don't think that that's really
Not-
true.
not paper napkins.
napkins.
Well, I thought it was a deal between paper napkins and
No.
cloth napkins. And I was thinking, I don't think either one.
no,
You
no.
do, Callie. You use cloth
I use cloth
ones.
napkins. I use cloth napkins because I like the recyclability of it. I can continue using them over and over and over again after wash after wash.
I feel bad for the number of paper towels that I use.
I did too, so I started using cloth napkins.
Yeah, but then I would have to wash the cloth napkins.
That's also true. That's also true.
Which is
Like,
probably
is-
more earth unfriendly, having to launder and wash cloth ones than it is the paper ones. I don't know. That'd
I
be an
don't
interesting thing to
know.
look at.
So
Which one's cheaper?
The cloth napkin
which
by
one
far.
is more environmentally sustainable?
Yeah.
I think it depends on a couple of factors. How are you laundering them? If you're throwing them in a washing machine and using name brand detergent, probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But if you're hand washing them with homemade soap, that's probably more
I disagree.
Earth friendly.
ecologically sustainable,
I
environmentally
use
sustainable.
Persil, but I use them dozens and dozens and dozens of time. I haven't thrown away any in ages, and we use them all the time. And so I buy
Right, but how
one
much
set.
how much fresh water
Yeah.
are you utilizing to wash
I'm
your
washing
napkins?
in a small washing machine. We have one of those like under the washing machine drawer, washing drawers. And so I think it's 2 gallons per load, 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons per load.
And that is pretty good.
If I was putting them in the main washing machine,
You
which as long
also
as you
have a
put them in with
bougie
everything
washing
else.
machine.
Okay, so you're not the only bougie one. Hush.
I'm not trying to be against you. I'm just saying that many other people in our generation would have a difficult time having a method to maintain
Yeah.
cloth napkins as an environmentally friendly or sustainable
Yeah.
manner as you do.
You could also
Oh my
put them in
gosh.
with
I
your
got in trouble from a
clothes.
friend for rinsing out my tin cans before I put them in recycle because water was such a
Precious resource.
commodity. Yes. That I got in trouble for washing them out.
I'm sure you did.
I don't think
Rinsing.
overpopulation is going to be as much of an issue as we've been worried about, because apparently millennials aren't
Y'all
having
aren't
kids.
having babies. You're not getting married.
Maybe that's just here in the US, but
Yeah. I don't think that it is.
I don't think so.
So millennials are also blamed for killing sex in general due to,
I don't agree with that.
due to,
What do you mean killing sex?
yes, millennials and now Gen Zers are having less sex with fewer partners than both our
Really?
parents and grandparents' generations did. Technology, heavy academic schedules, and overall slower motion process of growing up.
I'm still stuck back on the less sex thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
For
sure I believe that. I mean,
I do. We have a
Hmm.
male loneliness epidemic right now,
And all men
True.
are scary,
particularly
remember?
through millennials and Gen Z, especially.
okay,
are-
this is a whole different podcast, but I did listen, Cole, to that one you sent me where it talks about young men, and these are not millennials, but young men who are having AI girlfriends and sex bot sex and porn and not having sex. So, oh, Lord.
because our robot doesn't care the way we load the dishwasher.
Doesn't talk back, doesn't ever, what is it that you said in the AI chatbots? There's no rejection.
Yeah, there's no rejection. It's convenient, it's easy, and there's no emotional
Warmth.
strife involved.
or warmth or growth.
Plug it in.
So you
No
can simulate
pun.
warmth. That's what heating elements are for.
Yeah. Like, look, I'm not saying it's the right way to do it or a good thing. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that it is.
Here's my next question. Cole, how do you feel about no-show socks?
I'm wearing them. I will only wear no-show socks unless I am
Same.
like if I'm going into the office and I'm going to wear slacks and like decent shoes, then I might
Wear a dress
wear
sock.
dress socks. But even then, I'm probably going to wear no-shows. They're just more comfortable. I don't want to like have
They
ingrown
don't look
hairs all the
stupid.
way up to my knee. No, I see. I think like knee-high socks look fine. Like I don't have any problem like with the aesthetic of tall socks. They're just really uncomfortable to wear.
What did you say about ingrown hairs? Are you a leg shaver?
No,
Oh, just checking.
because I don't wear tall socks. But
You
if
would.
I wore tall socks all the time, I probably would have to be a leg shaver.
I never thought about that.
They compress and they like when you wear tall socks and you pull it up, all your hairs are getting pulled the wrong way. And then you take them off and they're getting pulled back the other way. It's just all wildly uncomfortable all around.
Maybe it's because I'm a female and I shave my legs, but I never have this problem with skinny jeans.
And I was just thinking, I don't have
Because
this
you don't
problem
have
with
hair on your
leggings.
legs.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Or
saying. Maybe that's why.
even, y'all don't even know what these are, but pantyhose. But I mean, but you're right, Callie, we shave our legs. So,
Yeah, I guess that's why.
I mean, is that our weird thought for today? That's kind of strange. I never went there before.
Gosh.
Oh
Tall
my
socks are itchy and
gosh.
uncomfortable because they mess with the hairs on your legs.
No. I'm going to have to ask your dad about this.
Come
He
back. We
started
need a
wearing
full
lower
report.
ride socks.
Of course he does, because he's a golfer. So it doesn't, I mean, shorts and tall socks kind of look goofy.
Well, which I think brings
Golf
up.
originate with men wearing kilts and knee highs?
They were not
Isn't
knee
like a
highs.
traditional golf uniform tall socks over your pantaloons?
Not over your bed.
I'm
No.
Off to Google we go.
No, they had it. They're not lederhosen, but something like that. My gosh, what a tangent. See, Cal, we can't stay on topic.
I would rather blame golfers than millennials.
here.
What?
Tall socks over your pantaloons. Tall socks over your pantaloons. Tall socks over your pantaloons. It's the number one image when you pull up traditional golf outfit.
I mean, he has a point. Let's blame golfers, not millennials. I love that. And because they wear their tall socks over their pantaloons, they're having less sex because they are not desirable and they don't get laid. Let's blame them for everything.
Again, that's a whole different podcast we'll talk about later.
So the other thing, or one of the other, because there's a whole
Oh, my
list as
Lord.
long as my very long arms. The other thing that millennials are getting blamed for killing is the diamond industry.
That bonus, great points for us.
How do you really feel, Cole?
Do you know how common diamonds actually are and how artificial scarcity has not only driven up their prices, but have you ever heard of the movie Blood Diamonds?
Well, and that's the whole thing. And I am going to blame boomers for this. The reason that diamonds, especially in the United States, are a thing or a symbol of love that diamonds last forever is a marketing campaign to sell more diamonds. And boomers
Diamonds.
didn't see through it. And
That'll
millennials.
shut her up.
Yeah. I mean, and millennials saw through the marketing drama of it all. And they're like, we're not being held to that standard. Plus, we can't afford them. You can't
That's what I'm
live in a
saying.
diamond. You can't eat a diamond. And then
you
you
could get a
go.
fake one that has the same chemical makeup practically for
A third the price.
virtually nothing.
Yeah. And with colors.
Are y'all doing cubic zirconia wedding bands?
I feel like there's lots of like
Some people are,
moissanite
yes.
and oh yeah. Because how do I say this nicely? I don't think that they're the same status symbol that they were.
I would agree with that.
I don't think marriage is as important to our generation as it was to yours.
I would
I
agree.
I
agree
don't
with
think
that
it's as
too.
big of a deal for many of the people in our age
Yeah.
range.
Yep.
And
would
I know
agree.
so many of y'all who've done tattoos instead of rings because
Because they're
I mean,
permanent. You can't take a tattoo off.
well, that's true, but but like
People
you're
who have a lot of trust issues, a generation that has a lot of trust issues,
Yeah.
you can take a wedding band off.
Also true.
If you're serious
Wow.
enough about our relationship, if you're serious enough to commit to me to put something on your body that you can't take off, that's a way bigger deal than buying me a diamond. Now, that's me speaking as a man.
Did it really affect the diamond industry?
Oh, yeah. And
Because we're
millennials
not
got
interested in
blamed
them.
for it. Yes, absolutely.
Millennials shouldn't be blamed. Millennials should be praised for ruining the diamond industry.
Well, the
So,
diamond industry's not going to praise you for that.
Well, screw the diamond industry. That's the whole point. I don't want it's a scam.
young
So what are you doing
consumers,
instead?
young consumers increasingly shun the taint of conflict and exploitation. The diamond industry, both sales for De Beers and Tiffany's at the time of the writing of this article, which was several years ago now, had both dropped 11 and 14% respectively. Millennials are delaying marriage and therefore buying fewer diamonds. And then the median age for a first marriage is 29 for men and 27 for women, more than 7 years later than it was in the 1950s. But yes, absolutely. And again,
Dang.
because they're not raking in the cash the same way, you've got these baristas with bachelors who can't afford to go spend what was the like calculation of how much you were supposed to spend, like 3 months of your salary. As a man, you're supposed to spend like three times your monthly salary. That was a thing. What was that?
I don't know.
Some arbitrary rule that De
For
Beers
sure.
probably
We-
put in a commercial to sell diamonds for more.
Oh, for sure.
We bought what we could afford and upgraded it a little bit later.
Which is great and reasonable, but this is another one of those scenarios, Ma, where you and Dad are probably the exception and not the rule.
Okay. So, is there anything y'all did good?
Yeah, we brought down the diamond industry and got rid of crappy bar soap.
Well, I mean, also true. But we also were coming up in those young, impressionable years in the time of the internet and social media.
Yeah, we
Oh,
teach
so we can blame you
we
for
teach
that.
our
Oh,
older
hush.
colleagues how to use their computers.
This is true.
Technically, it wasn't us who invented it all. Blame Al Gore. He invented the internet, remember? Not a millennial, guys. But we were the first generation who grew up in the coming of age being digital.
Yeah, very technology.
Yes. And the burnout that accompanied that. Oh, this is going to be great fun. Everybody's going to have such a great time. We're going to be so much more connected. And it didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. No, the opposite has definitely been the trend we've been seeing.
Yeah. And then you talk about the fickleness of what the options are and what the it thing is. I mean, Cole, do you remember Vine versus TikTok versus MySpace versus Zanga versus Facebook versus AOL Instant Messenger? I mean, we're all over the place. Now you just kind of pick whichever one works for you and say screw it to everybody else.
Well, you say that, but 5 years from now, it'll probably be a completely different group of apps that we're using.
For sure. And baby boomers will still be the only ones on Facebook.
I don't think y'all are the only ones on Facebook.
Y'all.
I mean, I'm on Facebook occasionally. There are like two people. Like I use Facebook Messenger because that's one of my buddy's preferred methods of communicating with me. So we just send each other reels back and forth, and then another buddy of mine, we tag each other in like dumb Facebook memes. But it's like once a day check in. Like, did Preston tag me anything goofy this morning? All right, let me go find something goofy to tag him in. And that's
Yeah, I have to get a text for somebody to say, hey, I did something that you need to see on Facebook. They'll send me a text because they know I'm not going to do that.
Gosh.
Or they could have just texted you the material.
I know, but they don't. They do it on Facebook and then text me.
Well, that's because you're not ever on Facebook and they're like, hey, heads up.
Yeah. I
'Cause they
sent
have
you an
muscle memory
invite.
of sending it to everyone else via Facebook, and then they send it to you, and they're like, "Oh, she's not going to see this. I need to text her to tell her to check it."
Right. That's what I do.
Weird
Whenever I
stuff.
send you something on Facebook, you're never going to see it.
No, ever.
So,
Okay. I still think y'all have done some good things.
yeah. I mean, millennials are, I don't even want to say credited because I don't feel like anybody's been quite that nice. They just complain about us, even though they're reaping the benefits. But millennials have tended toward therapy and emotional awareness and mental health being prioritized, breaking through generational trauma and getting past it rather than just suffering through, but actually addressing it. One of the other things is that I think is so fascinating and only continues to get more and more vast is the job market, if I want to call it that. But basically, like, I feel like when you were growing up, Mom, you were doctors or lawyers or like these 6 jobs, these 6 careers, that was what there were. And now you can be a content creator or a YouTuber or a, what are those people who, a streamer?
Well, and I would say the generation before me took a job and they stayed in that job forever. They retired and got their gold watch. Y'all have lots of different jobs. You move quite easily from one job to other. So, I mean, a long-term job for y'all is 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, looking back, I think that's smarter because I think you make a little bit more money because you are improving along the way. You're not staying there and just waiting for the
Stagnating.
employer to
I
offer
think it
you a
has
raise.
less to do with wages and more to do with work environment.
What do you mean?
I think a lot of millennials are not staying in jobs for very long because the jobs that they're working at are poorly managed and an unpleasant environment to work in, and they're not willing to put up with that for the paycheck because
And
they
see,
can go pull
my
a very
generation would
similar
have just
paycheck
stayed.
for a much lower stress level job
Yeah.
in
And
something
that does
they
kind of
find more
make y'all
enjoyable.
look, that kind of makes y'all look like
Fickle.
whiny babies. But I don't think that's really,
Snowflakes.
Does it though?
But no, here's the
no,
thing.
I don't think it really does.
We
I
get,
think in the long run, it's a smart thing.
yeah, so not enduring torture
Makes
is
us
Yes.
bad guys.
makes you weak. You're like,
And lazy. Who no one
Having
wants
an
to work.
employer who has to think about the fact that if I don't do this right, if I don't
treat my people like they're people.
yes, then they're going to leave and I'm not going to have employees. I think that's a good thing. I think that makes wages better in the long run.
It changes the tolerance level for sure.
Yes.
No
so I
one's
don't
willing
think
to
that's a
tolerate
bad
my
thing at
bad
all.
behavior.
I mean, and we've talked about this. If I had a do-over, I would not stay in the same job as much. Your dad and I both were long-term employees, and I don't think that it was to our advantage.
That your generation saw as loyalty and being loyal.
Yes. Yes. And so
And
we
here's the
see that
thing.
very differently, but you guys, I think it's positive.
Being loyal to an entity that is loyal to you is one thing.
Yes.
Being loyal just for the sake of loyalty, if you are being loyal to someone and that someone is taking advantage of you, that is not a positive thing. That is a lack of emotional intelligence on your part. Now, it doesn't make what they're doing right or okay, but it also doesn't absolve you of
Exactly.
letting someone take advantage of you.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Which I think is kind of goes into my next point. Millennials, again, are not necessarily getting praised, but in many ways are redefining what success looks like.
I agree with that.
They're taking more risks and taking more leaps of faith, if you will, to say, hey, I want to go do this. I want to take on this side hustle. At all of these different little points of contention for your generation, we are addressing them head on, saying, how can I make this work to my advantage?
I know so many women who did not go corporate ladder, but are influencers, are Etsy sellers, or things like that because they could do that and still be moms at home full time. And I think that's pretty wise. You know, it's got to get rid of some of the guilt that I think my generation grew up with for being absentee moms because they're there.
Yeah. I mean, and we're embracing the concept of flexibility. I can do this differently. I don't have to be there from 9 to 5, and that's the only option. I can do this from this time to this time, and then this time to this time, or on the weekend or on Saturday, whatever that may be, because that's what works for me and my family. And that's okay.
I have a friend who is my age, a boomer, and struggles very much with an employee that she has because that employee is a millennial who wants, and she's not an 8 to 5 employee, which is different. The whole contract was you work when you want to work and when you can. And yet that boomer gets really kind of funny about, well, I mean, they don't start work until midnight. Okay.
So, do they get the job done?
Get the job done.
Yeah. I had a Gen X boss. So the generation between you and I, Mom, who was always mad when people took their vacation.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you gave it to them.
But that's another thing. Y'all do take vacation. I end up with stuff left over I cannot remember a year that I did not have leftover vacation.
Yeah.
And I admire you
vacation
because
on just a random day, not even to go do anything, just so I don't have to go to work.
I know, but I think that's a positive thing. I think that's healthier for you.
Yeah, we're prioritizing mental health in a different way.
Yes. Yes.
I want to take today off, so I'm going to, and I can. So why
But
shouldn't
I just want to throw this at you because as I'm sitting here thinking about this and thinking about another podcast that I listened to this week about men and where they're at, particularly that 18 to 24-year-old. So let's say 10 to 15 years younger, the
Gen Z.
dynamics are totally different from y'all. For all of the gains that you guys have made, mental health, therapy, emotional intelligence, it's almost like it has been wiped out for that next generation of men. Where did that come from? How did we make this pendulum swing? Sorry, that's
there
probably
are more answers to that than we can get to on this episode, but I do think it would be an interesting episode in the future.
I'd really like to go over that with y'all at some point.
I agree. I mean, as I was doing some of the research just for this episode, I was scrolling through and there's a big deal on like a big clamoring on TikTok of Gen Zers saying they're aging so fast and millennials being
Welcome to the world, little buddy.
Well, there are several millennials who are like, Gen Z, you think millennials are aging slower than you are as Gen Z. And like one of the guys brought up a picture of all of the people on Cheers that I don't really remember Cheers, but still, I mean, it's adults, they're grown-ups. And the oldest one on there is like 38. And he looks to me like a grandpa. It's an older, white-headed, grown-ass man.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, and the guy who's doing the video looks kind of like Cole. And he's like, I'm 2 years older than him. We don't look like that. And there are several people who have come in, especially women who are talking about how Gen Z has been encouraged to start Botox and fillers younger. Then you can maintain your look. If you start it when you're 18, 19, 22 years old, you can maintain it for all of this time. And that's not really real.
Face.
So they're injecting themselves with all of these things. I mean, the rise of the Brazilian butt
this
lift.
hogwash.
They ate Tide Pods, Cole. They're not exactly the most intelligent generation there's ever been.
I get it, but here's the thing. You look at a Tide Pod, and it kind of looks like candy. You look at someone who gets Botox, and you're like, what did you do?
Also true, but they're believing they're more gullible.
You think they're aging more because they do more at an earlier age to not age?
So think about it. When did the rise of skincare really happen? Taking care of your skin and putting on moisturizer and toner and this kind of serum and this kind of cream. When did that become super mainstream?
Mid-2000s.
Post 2000. And it really took off. The industry by financial definition really took off during the pandemic. And
Really?
yes.
Because we had more time.
You had more time to do a big, huge skincare routine and to do all of these things.
It does take forever.
Oh, for sure it does. I mean, but Cole, we grew up, and this isn't just you and I, but our generation grew up on drugstore cleanser with microplastics in it.
Not boutique cleanser, not artisan cleanser.
Correct. Absolutely, it wasn't artisan. It was just whatever you could get. That's close enough. That's good enough. And we just kind of called it a day. If you were really fancy, you were getting like Clinique makeup
Yeah.
from Dillard's, from
Yeah.
Macy's. And now there are entire stores devoted to nothing but organic
Sephora.
and clean and fancy and this and all of these things. Sephora and Ulta.
Oh my gosh. I never thought about that, but it makes sense.
And there's such an emphasis and focus on it.
And it's high dollar.
And it's expensive.
Which is a little bit weird when you're thinking, it's a little bit weird when you're thinking about millennials being more strapped for cash.
Again,
But
we came out of our parents' homes during the recession of 2008. There's a whole trend going on, especially on Threads. It's a few months old now, but as this whole everything's going on with our current economy, it's like a bunch of Gen Zers going, "Hey, millennials, how did you guys survive in 2008 when everybody was so strapped for cash? What did you do? What were your recession meals?" And all of these things. And a bunch of people have come out and been like, we didn't spend all of our money on skincare. We picked up the $5 face wash and called it a day. Our parents gave us a bar of Irish Spring. We didn't spend $26 on a deal of goat milk soap. We have become bougie. We as a society have become bougie. Millennials just get blamed
Which I think
for it.
is a good thing in the long run.
In lots of ways, sure.
I think when the demand for higher quality products increases the standard of living across the board. The problem that we are running into right now is that our economic situation with inflation, these ever rapidly increasing prices, make it much more difficult for the average person, the average layman, to access those products when that is what the demand is for. And so they're having to split their resources in a way that they are sacrificing some things for other things. And so, yeah, maybe they have to eat McDonald's because they want to have a high quality skincare routine. And I don't think that wanting to have a high quality skincare routine is a bad thing.
That's not going to work, though. Eating McDonald's is not going to help your skin. I'm just saying.
I understand. And that's kind of part of the problem is that we're sacrificing in certain categories so that we have enough resources left over to meet our requirements in other categories that are important to us. But because we're having to sacrifice over here, what we're sacrificing for is not working to our benefit all that well.
Yeah. I want to afford the snail mucus face cream, so I'm going to eat that horribly preservative riddled microwavable macaroni and cheese. Whereas our
ugly about
generation,
Kraft.
I did not. I didn't even name them, but you did. Thanks a lot. But our generation has prioritized health and clean and more locally sourced and organically grown. We're the green generation, if you will, in many, many, many ways. Everything's organic and we're making our own baby food and cloth diapers and all of these goofy things that we're kind of getting shit on for, that is just to clean our bodies from the inside out.
Oh, we're sorry. We don't want to participate in oh man, I had a perfect term for it. We don't want to participate in an inefficient consumer waste machine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you can sit here and look at every generation's priorities. I think that would be a fascinating kind of study to do. What did boomers prioritize? They prioritized loyalty and building their families and having their homes in this specific time and era by this age, all of these things. Whereas millennials are prioritizing their health, their mental health, their physical health, being smarter and faster and greener and leaner, all of these things. And then Gen Z, they're prioritizing their looks and their appearance onto the outside world with social media. Like, what does that all look like? I'm not saying any of those are facts. I'm just kind of riffing and pulling from the air for the discussion's sake. But I think it would be fascinating to sit here and say, hey, what is everybody really prioritizing? What did each of these generations prioritize?
And why?
And why?
Yeah, I think the why is the more interesting question behind it.
Sure.
Holy cow.
But you can't have the why without the what first.
True. Thanks, Cole.
You're getting blamed for all
Everything.
these funny things. Do you misinterpret some things about the other generations?
Probably.
I'm sure.
Like
Boomers?
skibbity toilet, no clue.
Not a clue.
I
No
don't even know what
idea.
that means. And I think it's dumb. And it could be the most enlightened thought that a Gen Zer has ever had, but because I don't understand it, I think it's dumb.
Well, that's a boomer thing to say. Sorry, bud, but that's a boomer thing. I don't understand it. I think
am
it's
admitting
stupid.
to that because at some point we will be the boomer generation.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing.
also, I think that one of the things that our generation has prioritized is acceptance and tolerance. That I think that there is a
Yeah.
spectrum of what is too much, what is not enough. And I
Yeah.
think that we have kind of straddled the fence between those two, or the line between those two, a little bit more. Okay, that's how you want to be? Cool. Sounds good. I mean, we have the legalization of gay marriage. We have all of the LGBTQ rights and things. I mean, there are lots of different things that have come up that we're like, okay, sounds good. And I think that in many ways, Mom, you and I were just talking today about wanting to exhibit more kindness and more acceptance and more tolerance, but also balancing that with your own personal boundaries and what that looks like and means. And I mean, I can't tell you how many articles I've seen. It's like, hey, this is how to set boundaries with your boomer parents and how to enforce them graciously and with kindness and effectively, because we're prioritizing those things. I want you to live your happy life, whatever that may look like for you. It doesn't have to look like for me. I'm reading a book right now and it's fiction, but it's this woman's mom. It's a millennial's mom. So she's probably a boomer, and she is getting pissed off that the guy she's dating doesn't have a bachelor's degree or an MBA. He's just a firefighter, and how judgmental it is. And we don't care. Be
And
happy,
I think
do
that's the
you.
difference. Like when you said my thought was a boomer mentality, and I agree with you, but I do think it's a little bit different because I would never walk up to a Gen Z who had said skibbity toilet and say, I think that's dumb. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But a boomer would.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there are
It would be
some
more
really
likely
cool
for a boomer
things.
too. Let me reiterate.
Yeah, that's better.
The tolerances are just different. You have something to say. I can see it in
No,
your
no.
face.
It was a weird thought. I was thinking, are Karens boomers or Karens millennials?
I think Karens span all generations, but I think they're more likely to be both Gen X and boomers more than any other generation.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are Karens. You could come any shape, color, size, and creed and be a Karen. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a
But you think the
traditional Karen
majority-
is probably more likely to be a boomer or a Gen Xer. But there are plenty of millennial Karens. Trust me.
For sure. For sure.
I'm sorry, y'all are get blaming for crap that doesn't have anything to really. I mean, y'all are pretty
We're
good
getting
about.
blamed for good things like they're bad things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say I like it when y'all put avocados in my meal because y'all are better at it than I am.
Yeah.
You think about it more than I do.
I mean, Ryan and I were having a conversation the other day. The generation prior to you, Mom, was less likely to share recipes. These are family secrets. This is mine. This is how I do it. And he was like, when do you think that changed? And I told
The
him,
internet.
I said, I think that it changed with magazines.
Yeah.
The participation
revenue.
of not so much even ad revenue. I mean, sure, I think there are lots of 1950s magazines that have all kinds of Jello cake recipes. I don't even know what those are called, Jello mold recipes. But the sharing of information when it became public, and then you add in the internet, so you want any kind of whatever recipe anywhere, you can find it, no problem. How many options do you want?
Anything to think of.
And then people are confused why millennials want more and want better, because you've shown us that there are more and better options of everything, of jobs and careers and locales and destinations and cocktails and different varieties of wine. There's not six
Treatment by the
choices.
people around you.
Yeah, treatment by the people around you. You've shown us this entire world with the invention of the internet and the opportunity to go and seize and do anything that you want. It's all out there. You can experience anything. And then we go and do it. And you're like,
How dare you?
lazy.
Are y'all going to be the generation in 3 generations that they go,
They were
they were the
right.
great generation?
Lord, I hope so.
They did this and they did that. I mean, is this just the price you pay for now?
I mean, think about it. I feel like in general, no matter the circumstance, change is hard and change is uncomfortable. And we're currently, I'm not saying it will stay forever, but we're kind of the change generation. In fact, I think Time Magazine did a big deal about the change generation and about millennials being willing to do things differently than any other generation before. And that willing to take on that discomfort. And part of it, I think, especially given all of the economic situations and political situations that we've grown up in, it wasn't really a choice. It was a
I was
demand.
y'all had some trauma that you just had, you didn't have a choice. You had to deal with.
Right. It was just a demand. That's how life was. And so I think that we were kind of forced to deal with things differently and forced to accept things differently to the point that, okay, we're just comfortable being uncomfortable. And there are benefits to change every day.
I started to say, I think you're almost healthier
Oh, yeah.
mentally and physically than the generation before you. And I'm wondering if it's the generation behind you too. It sure looks that way, or at least the next generation. It sure looks that way.
I think we have struggled so much with those things because we are not all of that physically and mentally healthy that we are now striving for those things.
Yes, it's within your reach. It's within your grasp. You can. I mean, we had a generation of parents who said, you can be anything that you want. You're a girl and you want to be an astronaut? You can do that. Did anybody ever say that to you, Mom?
Oh, Lord, no. Mine was, you can't play sports. You're a girl.
This is the box that you need to fit in. Figure it out.
Yes. Yes.
Now that box has been broken.
Yeah, shattered.
Shattered.
Yep.
Well,
You can be
it probably
anything.
won't be around, but I hope you're the great generation, the next great generation,
I hope so too.
because you've definitely put up with a bunch of stuff.
Man, ain't that the truth
Bougie soap.
that you benefit with? So I don't want to hear it from you, Missy.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I get lots of new toys that I share with you and Dad.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Did I
like
tell
it.
you? I got Dad a present this afternoon. He mentioned
Do I
something
want-
to me earlier this week, and I found some at the grocery store today.
What was it?
Dude,
Alligator. We're going to have some
You
alligator
found-
this week.
you found alligator at the store?
My store, yeah.
Because
Your
he's willing
store.
to be broader minded and check out different grocery stores than the one that you go to.
Tastes just like chicken. That's what I've always heard.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I'm going to transition us into our weird thought for the day. I have a question for you.
Okay.
What is a rule that you had as a kid growing up that you no longer abide by as an adult?
Swearing in front of my parents.
Amen.
In fact, now it is a goal of mine to get them to swear as much as I can.
Absolutely.
And I always
it is.
am like,
yeah, there's a
every
pride
time I hear
point.
an F-bomb,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. Mom, I used to remember you. You're going to kill me for this. I used to
Oh,
remember
no.
you getting on to me for calling people dicks. And you call more people dicks now than me.
I called
I
Dad a
do
dickhead
not-
yesterday.
You called your dad?
Well,
It was funny. It was in good fun. We were backing out of the driveway to go down to the lake and fish for a little bit, and I had grabbed my big water cup out of my car, and I also had just like a plastic bottle from earlier in the day when I had stopped at the gas station, and I had taken the lid off, and I was like holding the water bottle with my feet, like my cup, and holding the water bottle in my hand to unscrew it. And then I'm holding the cup in one hand and like trying to pour, and I'm riding passenger in Dad's truck. So I'm trying not to spill it all over his truck. And he's just pumping the brakes, rocking.
On purpose?
Yes.
On purpose?
Laughing, just over there snickering away. And I knew what
the
he was
Henri
doing.
generation.
Yes.
And here we are prioritizing hydration, being responsible.
Getting messed with for it.
I think that's funny.
That
I
is
thought it was
funny.
hilarious. We both laughed.
That is so funny.
I would say, Callie, you have to eat everything on your plate.
I
And
still
y'all
abide
never
by
had to
that.
do that.
I try not to put more on my plate than I know I should eat these days.
Yeah,
Every
I'm not
once in a
great at
while, my
that.
eyes are a little bit too big for my stomach,
Sure.
but like I don't do it because I don't think that was ever really much of a rule that was enforced in our house.
No. Because it was a
But like,
stupid rule.
right. But like, I try and clear my plate because I don't like to be wasteful. I also
Yeah.
don't like to cook. Like, I don't cook big meals because I don't like leftovers. I don't like being wasteful.
Yeah.
And so like, if I cook something, I want it all to be eaten then so that I don't even have to worry about it later.
We had a rule that you had to take a bite.
Try something.
And if you didn't like it,
yeah.
it was okay. My family, it didn't matter whether you liked it or not. And if they knew you disliked it, it didn't matter. You were supposed to eat everything on your plate.
And you still to this day don't like peas very well because as a child, you would shove them all in your little chipmunk cheeks and hold them until your parents were not around and then you could dispose of them.
Isn't that a
Yes.
little bit like sadistic?
I mean,
Like, we know you don't like this, but you have to eat it anyways.
generational trauma's a real bitch, Cole.
Okay, how about this one? I was thinking, I used y'all's middle name if you were in trouble. Do you think people still do that?
Yes, I know people still do that.
I would agree. And I think that it's part of the thing, at least for me, whenever we've talked about children and naming children and having children, I want you to be able to yell it when they're in trouble.
Yeah. You know,
That's important to me.
I did that to Nathan one time and he got real mad. Just used his middle name. This was many, many years ago. We were still kids. But I'm very shout out to Janny Jan because she does it to him now. And it cracks me up every time.
But that using someone's middle name means you're serious. That denotes a totally different level of seriousness.
Well, I'm kind of glad that one's still there then. I like that one. Callie, what do you remember as a rule?
I remember us having to give up our beds when guests came over. I had a twin size bed with a trundle underneath. So when the trundle was pulled out, they were pushed together for a king size bed for guests.
Yeah.
And now ain't nobody sleeping in my bed. I've prioritized a guest bedroom at all times. Even when I had my little tiny house by myself that had one bedroom, I prioritized getting a fold out couch so that you can sleep in there by yourself. You do not need to be in my bed.
Yeah. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. No, I can even remember the sheets that were put on that king size bed. I mean, no. I'm not sharing my bed with anybody. Anything else?
Yep.
Yeah. Other rules that you think of?
I always giggle about our generation has talked about, I think it's Bill Cosby, who has since been canceled, but I brought you into this world. I can take you out of it.
Good luck.
And I don't know if we just didn't respond to it or if we're just like telling you that you're bad people for saying horrible things like that. I don't know.
Steve, I mean, I'm
I don't
thinking
think
about
you ever
this.
said it seriously. I think you've only ever said it like in a light joking moment. I don't think that was a threat that you ever used in the heat of the moment that I can remember.
No, but I was thinking, I definitely threatened y'all.
And there were
Sure.
some I don't even want to call them threats, but there were some phrases that were passed around that would definitely not pass muster today. It would be
Yeah, for sure. Don't bring them up.
it would be inappropriate. You know exactly what I am talking about, which I believe is essentially where the whole gentle ribbing that we talk about on this podcast originated, was us giving you shit about all of the things that you said that you're like, well, that's not what I mean, but that is what I said, but that's not how I mean it. You know
I quit.
exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm going to be very, very, very quiet. Keep my mouth shut.
One of the other rules that we had growing up that I did not understand as a kid, but definitely understand now, was asking for permission for somebody to come over with them standing there in front of them.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, mom, can my buddy right here come over? And that puts you in such an awkward position to have to say yes, to kind of force your hand. And sorry about that. My bad. I didn't get it at
Y'all
the time.
were, I mean, because that was that really was a pet peeve that I didn't want to have to say no to the kid in front of you.
Yeah.
That y'all were really pretty good. I mean, you caught on.
Yeah, I was going to say it took us a minute, but then we kind of caught on.
Yeah.
I think you had to explain it to us at one point, but after that, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Yes.
Yeah. And
That
then y'all
makes
were pretty
sense.
respectful about
Yes.
that.
I will say, Cole, you brought it up when we were talking about this episode and kind of getting prepared for it. We had things that in our household we didn't watch. We didn't watch The Simpsons. We didn't watch South Park, that we still to this
SpongeBob.
day. Yeah, I didn't even think about SpongeBob. We still
No.
to this day just kind of were like, okay. And we
None
don't
of
go
those
and
are
watch
like
them.
really enriching my life. Like I have tried to watch
Yeah.
some of them, and I think they're just not that entertaining to me.
Yeah. I think
They
that,
always seemed mean to me.
yeah, I can see that.
Just disrespectful.
And dumb.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I'm with you there. I think that there is a difference between irreverence and meanness, and I think that they can be misconstrued sometimes. I think there are some scenarios like
Yeah.
I think The Simpsons was irreverent. I think South Park is mean.
But as a kid, I don't
Young,
know that you
impressionable
know how
mind to
to
differentiate.
Differentiate between
Yeah.
the two. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I
that
just
I
didn't
agree with.
want you to have that exposure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that.
I think
Okay.
it's important to have that exposure at some point, but as a young
Yeah.
between
Kind of
8 and
protecting your brain
15,
from that.
that's probably a little bit early to try and get that lesson across.
Yeah. Okay. You guys got spankings.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Cole probably less, Callie, than you did.
Oh, hush.
Well, it was because spankings didn't work on him. But I don't see people spanking their children today.
There's a huge amount of research that says hitting your children and punishing your children like that, it blurs, kind of like Cole was talking about being able to differentiate. You can't do that at a young age. And so it blurs the line of violence being
I
acceptable.
think that's hogwash.
Boomer. There is a ton
There is
of
a
research.
difference between spatting your kid and explaining that's unacceptable behavior and beating the hell out of your kids. There's a difference.
Agreed. I always got, whenever I got spanked, 99% of the time it was dad doing the spanking. And he would always, always say, Callie, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And I remember thinking at that time growing up, I was like, no, it doesn't. I'm the one
Yes.
who's getting whacked here. And
But it did hurt your dad.
I didn't understand that until I became an adult going, it hurt him metaphorically in his heart,
Yes.
not
Yes.
his rear end.
And all that entails. I mean, you failed. Your kid has been a little,
Shit.
I was trying not to
And
say
look,
it.
here's the thing. Like, you can spank your kid and it not be,
Traumatizing.
yeah, like you can
The internet
say,
is going to
this
come
is
for
a
us.
come for me. Here's the thing. You don't have to beat your kid until there are blisters on their ass.
That's exactly it.
Like there is a line that shouldn't be crossed, but that can be used to say, hey, this is the negative repercussion. This is the consequence of this action.
Yeah.
Just to teach the
Sometimes
fact
it's
that there
just
are
the shock
consequences.
to get your attention.
Yeah.
And I mean, in all seriousness, did you ever walk away from a spanking with bruises or pain? I mean,
No, there are times
maybe
when
your
it stung, sure.
butt
Sure.
stung for a second, but you didn't walk away from that thinking, I'm not going to be able to walk or I've been abused.
I
You
feel like
didn't.
for me, like it was always the emotional response from you and dad that was so much more impactful, the disappointment, than it ever was the physical spanking.
That's why you didn't get spankings.
Which I think is kind of the part of it. Like I'm sitting here looking at a couple of pieces of research of this. The National Institute of Health talks about how there's enough research to conclude that spanking is ineffective at best and harmful to children at worst. So you've literally just agreed to this. Cole, it was ineffective on. And then if you go to the other extreme, it could be very harmful. And so I think that you're right. There is a difference between spanking versus beating the shit out of, but there is also a lot of research that children who are spanked often have a greater risk of low risk, only a risk. So it's not, again, not the rule, but a greater risk of low self-esteem, of aggression, of lying, cheating, depression, and bullying. Somebody did this to me, so I can do it to somebody else.
And I think that there is a line where that is true.
I
But I
agree.
think in an everyday 2 or 3 or 4-year-old, and I think that there's a point that spanking is inappropriate for sure. But I think with that 2 or 3 or 4-year-old, a whack on the butt does not entail abuse or cause. I mean, I think you're both examples of this did not cause low self-esteem or trauma to the two of you. And I think that not disciplining the kid is
way
more harmful.
detrimental.
I can see that.
Way more harmful than a spat on the butt.
I think that it all comes down to, as kind of a shitty of a thing as this may be, I think it comes down to the parent and where they recognize that line to be, and what is and isn't effective and appropriate is really the defining factor when it comes to spanking, is my guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so too. I think every kid has to be treated according to what works with them.
Yeah.
And it's not always. Cole, if you spanked him, it was harder on him for you to talk to him and say, Cole, this is disappointing. It just it got his attention. With you, sometimes you just had to get your attention.
Yeah.
But again, I doubt if either one of you remember getting a spanking.
Like, I remember.
You do?
I don't remember a specific instance, or like it was always on the workout machine.
Yeah. That's so funny. I don't remember that at all.
Oh, yeah.
But I maybe twice that I can remember.
But again, I think that there's I don't want to even call it like a time and a place, but we're talking about how something like South Park or The Simpsons could screw with your brain, on a young, impressionable brain. I think that there's something to be said about violence could do the same thing, and the opportunity for that. You have to be a responsible adult to say, hey, this is when it is appropriate, this is not. To get out your belt and whip your newborn would be asinine. They can't recognize
Absolutely
that.
Inappropriate.
Absolutely inappropriate. To try and bend Cole over your knee right now at 35 years old, 31 years old. Good luck. Nice knowing you.
You want some help?
Shut your mouth. I think that, again, I think that is, and maybe that's part of the responsibility of being a parent and having kids. But I think that
which I don't think everyone is capable of.
Agreed.
Which is part of the problem.
Yes, I agree. I mean, but I think that responsibility truly lies with you as an adult, as the parent, saying, hey, this is what's appropriate, this is what's not, this is where that line is. I need to be cognizant of that.
I'm sitting here reminding myself that you're both very well-adjusted people and not feeling bad about spanking you when you were little.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
We're not mad at you for giving us spankings. I'm not mad at you.
I'm not mad at you.
You just slammed me about the science of this is bad.
I did not.
I did.
I know.
I'm just
You're
telling
my
you
favorite,
the research.
Cole.
Hush your mouth. See if I feed you for dinner.
You will.
I'll DoorDash you something.
Shut up. You can't not feed me. I know the truth of this. Okay. Good news story?
Yes. So our good news story this week is a celebration of a gentleman who I think is doing probably the best thing you could possibly do in his situation. I don't think you could
have a better outcome.
Yeah, I don't think you could go out in a better way.
The cards that have been dealt.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't play your hand any better than this guy is. So Doug Ruck is a Texas man who has recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And instead of going out in a ball of fire or
an F-150.
F-150.
Yeah. He has decided that he wants to spend the rest of his life serving. So he has started the Dying to Serve tour, in which his goal is to voluntarily commit his time to
Community service.
community service in all 50 states. And I think that that is not only incredible, but absolutely admirable.
I would agree.
And I hope that
Commend him.
we can be more like Doug, because that's awesome.
I
That's
agree.
amazing.
I
Good
mean,
story.
what else could be better? A better, like you said, playing the hand that he's dealt when somebody comes and says, hey, you've got 12 to 18 months left to live. How do you better spend
And
that
what
time?
you want to do with the rest of your life is go and help other people, go and serve other people.
But I have to say, as a end of life person, that's of his benefit too. He can, quote unquote, walk away from life proud of what he's done.
Yeah.
Good.
He's
That's
quoted
amazing.
in this article. He says, this volunteer mission has already made a huge difference in my life in just over a month. I've met and helped so many wonderful people and organizations who have left a profound impact on me and my state of mind. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed for any of us, and now I get to live like there isn't one, which everyone should get to experience before they move into whatever's next.
Kind of like the Tim McGraw song,
Yeah.
Live like you were dying.
Yep. I can
Well,
sit at
thanks.
home and wait to die, or I can go out and live. So I decided I was going to go out and live. That's why I planned this 50-state tour.
Get you some, Doug.
That's so cool.
Go, Doug, go.
I like it.
I do too.
Maybe crap it. Thanks.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
It wouldn't be an episode of T-Ma'am if you didn't.
Hey, man.
I mean, maybe not, but that's okay.
I love you.
I love you guys.
I love you too. I like my millennials. I'm keeping my millennials.
We'll keep you too, Boomer. Just keep you in line.
Okay. It works.
Love y'all.
Love you. Bye.